YouTube, what is going on? It's your boy Cody here. Hope everyone's doing well out there. And it's time for another mock draft. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This is my mock draft 3.0, third one I'm doing here. And this one's going to be a little bit different for a couple reasons. One, we're doing 2 rounds today. That's right, we're doing a 2-round NFL mock draft today for you guys. I've done a lot of first rounds. The only two I've only done first round, so I'm excited to do a 2-round mock draft for you guys here. This is going to be my updated thoughts. Obviously, some things have changed since the last time I've done a mock draft. The Eagles and the Saints have swapped around some picks, so that's going to change around some of my decision-making there. And also, a lot of things have been happening. More pro days have been happening, and a lot more buzz and things going around out there in the draft bursts, I guess you could say. But I'm excited to give you guys my NFL mock draft 3.0 today with you guys here. And I definitely have some changes. So if you're new here, feel free to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. This is going to be my third one. As I said, I do plan on probably doing another one by myself before draft day. And then I also actually do plan on doing a mock draft with my buddy Dives over at the Painted Lines. He's probably going to come on over to the channel, and we'll probably do a 2-round mock draft at some point. But this is going to be my 3.0, and then I'm going to probably be my 4.0 is probably going to be my final draft that I do before draft day. And then we'll have a fun one in between with my buddy Dives and I, and we'll take turns picking teams and such. But we're here, and we're doing this by myself with this 2-round mock. So we do have a lot of picks to get through here. So without further ado, let's get started here with the Jacksonville Jaguars on the clock. A lot of things to think about here with the Jaguars, and I think the big thing to think about here is they've made a lot of moves to that offensive line in free agency, and Evan Neal seemed to be the pick for a lot of people in the early stages of everything, probably pre-combine and everything, and maybe even during the combine it was a lot of Evan Neal. But because of the moves that they made with Cam Robinson and adding in a center as well, makes me think if that's really where they're going to put their top priority. I mean, I wouldn't be mad if they took an offensive tackle. You could definitely use it. You want to protect your future quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. But I think they're going to go in a different direction here. I think they're going to work on this defense here with this first pick in particular. And really it comes down to the edge rush position for me here. You think about the two transcending positions really that can really impact the team right away is quarterback and edge rush, right? Edge rush on the defensive side of the ball. You already have your quarterback. So I think edge rush is the way to go here. And now there's a lot of speculation as who they should take. Should they take the sure thing right now, the real deal? We know what this guy could be in Aiden Hutchinson. Or should they take the upside pick and a Trayvon Walker? I've seen a lot of buzz lately about a Trayvon Walker and him potentially going first overall to the Jaguars. To me, that's a little too rich. I'm not as high on Trayvon Walker as everybody else is. So spoiler alert, you're not going to see him go as far as high as you normally probably would in a lot of people's mock drafts. But I think for right now, the Jaguars just need to bring in a guy that's going to come into the building and just impact the team right away. You know what you're going to get in this guy. He's going to be a good locker room guy and just an all-around solid player for your football team. And that's Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan. Still my first overall pick. I think it just makes a lot of sense. You know what you're getting with the guy, and I think Jacksonville should go in that direction. Next, we have the Detroit Lions on the clock here at 2, and they would love to see Hutchinson there, but unfortunately that's not going to be the case, I feel. So they have a couple directions they could go in here with the Lions being the team that they're still in rebuild mode, second year for Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes. So a lot of decisions here to think about what they're going to do. And normally I would give them edge rush, but a lot of things have make me thinking maybe they want to go like a safety, like Kyle Hamilton, who is dropping a lot for people. And I get it. You know, safety isn't really a top priority pick. So maybe they can get a better safety in like the early second round or late first where they already have those picks. And I think that's the direction they go. I think those kind of other safeties you're thinking of like a Daxon Hill, Jaquan Brisker, those kind of guys, Jalen Pitre, those kind of guys, Lewis Seen, those guys will kind of be available later on when they pick. So I think they don't really need to focus on the safety position right now. What they do need to focus on right now, I feel, is the edge rush position, bringing another guy on defense. Dan Campbell loves those tenacious, nasty players that just play dirty, like a Penei Sewell who they drafted in the first round last year. So when I think of dirty players, tenacious, just really good football players, I think Kayvon Thibodeau. And I know a lot of people aren't going to be happy with that pick because a lot of people have Kayvon Thibodeau falling. But Kayvon Thibodeau is, in my opinion, maybe the best edge rusher in the class behind Aiden Hutchinson. And I have him going here second to the Detroit Lions. I think they want to bring in a guy that's going to maybe end up being the more upside player and could end up being the best player in the draft when it's all said and done. He has that kind of mindset. Are there question marks around him with his character and everything? Sure. But I think Detroit will take him in. They're still young in a rebuild where they can maybe take a gamble on a guy like that. And I think it just makes way too much sense there. So it might not be everyone's favorite pick, but I'm going to Kayvon Thibodeau second to the Detroit Lions. And by the way, no trades in this mock draft. So we're all doing stick and picks. So I probably should have made that clear before we started. This puts the Houston Texans on the clock here, who right now, this is where their rebuild begins. This is where all of the limelight is going to go on Nick Caserio and that whole front office and the new head coach they're bringing in, Lovie Smith. So this is where it needs to start for them. They really need to hit on these two picks they have in the top 15 here. And how the board is setting up for them right now, I wouldn't be mad because you see on a lot of different mock draft sites, not this one, but they have all positions as a need for the Houston Texans, and they really do. They could really take anybody on this board, and they'll make an impact for them. And I think that's a good situation to be in if you're the Houston Texans. So they know they're not going to win right now, so they can take guys, and they can really take the time to develop them, and then they'll be something, 3 to 5 years down the road, however long it takes. So how the board is setting up here, I think if you're sitting here and you're Nick Caserio and you have the best offensive tackle on the board here for me, and that's Evan Neal from Alabama, you think of Nick Caserio and where he came from, being the Patriots, and how much they love the Alabama system. I think that's just it fuels in his blood. You know what I mean? He trusts Alabama. And I think Evan Neal is probably the most sure offensive tackle. He's probably the one that you probably feel the safest with. And I think that would be a great fit for him, even if he plays with Laramie Tunsil or if he doesn't. I think that's a good fit. And I love that fit there for the Houston Texans. Can you take a guy like Kyle Hamilton? Sure. But I think, offensive tackle, you have Davis Mills, who had a good year last year. Maybe you kind of want to see what he has to do, right? So maybe taking a guy like Neal there to help him might not be a bad choice. You can give a true evaluation to Davis Mills to see if he can be your quarterback of the future. Next, we have the New York Jets on the clock here at 4. And I think with those two big edge rushers off the board here, this kind of makes them maybe not so sure as to what they want to do here. As I mentioned before, I'm not high on Trayvon Walker. So 4 here is a little rich for me for the Jets to take Trayvon Walker. But I could definitely see it happening. He probably is the best edge rusher on the board. And edge rusher definitely is a position of need for them. Offensive tackle, too, is a position they could go with, pair a guy alongside Mekhi Becton, and you see Akeem Ekwonu here. That could make a lot of sense as well. Don't think they're going to go in that direction, though. What I think they are going to do here, though, is focus on this defense first thing and foremost, because the Jets spent their first 4 picks last year on offense, and some hit, some didn't. So I think what they need to do now is maybe address the defense a little bit. They have a little bit in free agency, which is good. But I think they have the potential to take the best corner in the draft here at 4. And there's a lot of teams from 5 to 10 that could sneak their way in to take a guy like Sauce Gardner. So I think the Jets here, with Kayvon Thibodeau and Aiden Hutchinson being off the board, I think this pick becomes a little bit easier for them. Teams like the Giants could take Gardner, the teams like the Falcons or the Seahawks. So taking Gardner here now makes sense. And that way, maybe you can focus on a better position here at 10 when you have that pick as well. So I'm going to take Sauce Gardner here to the New York Jets. As a Patriots fan, that would scare the living crap out of me having to deal with him twice a year. And Sauce Gardner isn't even my top corner. We'll get to my top corner later. But I think that just makes the most sense for the Jets in that situation just based on how the board played out. And who knows, maybe Trayvon Walker will be there for them at 10. We'll wait and see how it all pans out. With the New York Giants, who are on the clock here with their pick. 2 picks here at 5 and 7. And if I'm the New York Giants, I'm definitely maybe trying to trade back just because I think you can get more value and more assets later. But again, we're not doing any trades. We're sticking and picking here. So if I was the Giants here in this situation, think about Daniel Jones. You think about Dayball and Joe Shane, who have come in and said they want to see what Daniel Jones is all about. We want to build around him, give him a fair evaluation before they can see what they're going to do moving forward. So I think with that mindset here, they got to help him right away. And I'm looking at two guys here, Akeem Ekwonu and Charles Cross, two offensive tackles that could come in right away, pair alongside Andrew Thomas, and that's a pretty solid little tackle core that you have there. I also look at a guy like Kyle Hamilton, who, again, is a great player and could come in right away and be an impact player for you. And, you may not think Kyle Hamilton will be there at 7, right? So maybe you take Hamilton now and know for sure you're going to at least get one of the two tackles because Carolina needs a tackle. So maybe you're happy with one of the tackles at 7, and then you just take Hamilton here at 5. I think that's what I'm going to do. I eventually was going to take tackle, but I think the Giants would be happy with both Ekwonu and Cross, who I both think are top 10 talents. Don't get me wrong. So I'm going to give them Kyle Hamilton here. Safety is definitely a position of need for the Giants. And I think, you just lost Jabril Peppers. You bring in Kyle Hamilton, might make an immediate impact there, and they'll find a spot for him in that defense to work around and move. So I think Kyle Hamilton's still a top 5 prospect, and I think he doesn't fall out of the top 10. I think it would be a shame if he did. So I kind of like that fit there. Kyle Hamilton going to the Giants. And I think the Giants in that situation would then keep 7 because they still want to keep one of those offensive tackles. Carolina is on the clock here at 6, and this is a big spot here for them. Matt Rule on the hot seat. He needs to find something that works. He's been at all the quarterbacks pro days. This pick screams quarterback. I think it has to be quarterback. They don't have any other picks for who knows how long, right? No picks in the second round, no more picks in the first round. They got to really nail this pick here if you're the Carolina Panthers. You missed out on Deshaun Watson. They gotta get somebody to help Matt Rule right away, or else he's out the door, right? With that, I think they need to take the sure, real deal quarterback here. And while Malik Willis, I personally have him as my QB1, I don't think he's ready to start right away. I think he needs to sit behind a veteran for a year or at least half a season before he comes in. A guy who I think could come in right away and make an impact and start week 1 is Kenny Pickett from Pittsburgh. And if you're Matt Rule and you're trying to save your job this year, Kenny Pickett has to be the pick. There's no other way around it, right? Yes, you need offensive tackle help. Yes, you have Ekwonu and Cross there, but I think quarterback is the most important position. And then who knows, maybe you can try and, the offensive tackle position has depth in this class where the quarterback class doesn't. But you look at all the quarterbacks in this class right now, who has the safest to come in and start week 1 for a franchise? I would say Kenny Pickett is that answer. Again, I don't have him as my top quarterback, but I think he could come in and start right away for a team. Back to the New York Giants here on the clock, and this is an easy one for them. Again, this was kind of a smart strategic thing here for them. Carolina can maybe move out of this pick, and another team could come up and get a Kyle Hamilton at 6. So the Giants are still happy that both offensive tackles are here for their choosing. And I think Akeem Ekwonu, I just take the upside here. You think of Ekwonu more as a run blocker. You want Saquon Barkley to get the ball rolling again in there. So he'll definitely love a guy like Ekwonu Barkley if he comes in and makes an impact. While Cross is maybe the better pass blocker and maybe slightly the better overall one, I feel like the Giants would take a risk here and gamble on a guy like Ekwonu who could come in and maybe even play guard if you needed him to, which is also a need for the Giants. So I think that makes a lot of sense too. Whether he plays tackle or guard, you're finding a tackle and you're helping out Daniel Jones. So there's that too. The Atlanta Falcons are here on the clock. Matt Ryan is no longer there, which means the rebuilding switch has been turned on there in Atlanta. It's not a very good set of skills over there, except for Kyle Pitts, really, and A.J. Terrell, but that's about it. So this team definitely needs a lot of help. I wouldn't be surprised if they traded back here to get more picks. But again, we're sticking and picking. This is a tough spot here for the Falcons. They can go in a couple different directions here. You sign Marcus Mariota, right? Could he just be your bridge quarterback for a year? And then you could draft a guy like Malik Willis who could come in and, you could be your eventual starter. I think a lot of people in Atlanta would like that. Do you go that route? Do you take an edge rusher in Trayvon Walker, the Georgia kid? Do you bring him home? And that's a very high upside pick who could really make a huge impact for your team right away. Or do you take the best receiver on your board? Because let's face it, Atlanta, you have no receivers, right? Calvin Ridley is not playing this year because of suspension, so you really have nobody else in that wide receiver room, right? So you look at receiver potentially being an option here for Atlanta. Could also address that later too. Really just depends on how you're feeling here and how spicy you're feeling with this pick here. If I'm the Atlanta Falcons, I think what you have right now is a defense that has pieces where you look at Atlanta and you have a piece. I don't think you have multiple pieces, you know what I mean, this year. So I think for that reason, I'm going to give the Atlanta Falcons my number one receiver in the class. Might not be the same for everybody, but I'm going to give, sorry about that. I'm going to give Atlanta Garrett Wilson from Ohio State. Definitely my wide receiver one. He comes in right away, and he's going to be that, shifty player you can move around the line. He can play slot. He can play outside. And I think it'll be a really cool complementary piece to Kyle Pitts this year. And then even if you bring Calvin Ridley back, that's still a nice 1-2-3 punch, if you ask me. So get the best receiver on the board, I think, personally. It would suck to pass on guys like Trayvon Walker and maybe even Malik Willis. But, again, we're sticking and picking. We're sticking with what we have here. Next, we have the Seattle Seahawks on the clock at 9. Again, Russell Wilson no longer there. This is how they got this pick here in the top 10. This also could be a tough spot for the Seattle Seahawks. They bring in Drew Lock. They bring in Noah Fant. You think, is Drew Lock the future, right? Are they really – apparently they really wanted Drew Lock in this trade, right? Did they do that to just give him a backup plan in case, something happens? Or did they get him because we want to see what he's all about? You know what I mean? Those are the kind of things you need to think about here. There are 3 really good players that could come in here and make an impact for them. Again, we're talking about Malik Willis. We're talking about Trayvon Walker. And we're talking about Charles Cross, who I think the best fit for the Seahawks right now is taking Charles Cross from Mississippi State. Grab a tackle for the future there for whoever the quarterback is going to be. Because let's face it, Seattle, your offensive line is not very good. And you have guys like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett who can play right now and can help you win right now. So that's the question you want to think about there. Is Drew Lock going to get you anywhere? You know what I mean? Is he going to get to you where you want to go? Or do you take a guy here like Malik Willis and the upside, develop him for a little bit? You have the insurance policy in Drew Lock, and then bring in Malik Willis midseason. You know what I mean? Why would Seattle move up to 9? Why would they do it? Why would they do it? That's just kind of – it interests me a little bit. It has me thinking. It has me thinking a little bit here. I'm going to do it. I'm going to give them Malik Willis from Liberty at 9. I just think they don't move up that far for a reason. You lose a quarterback to get a quarterback, right? Now you have 2 guys who compete in training camp and see what happens. You know what I mean? You have DK Metcalf. You have Tyler Lockett. You have a young tight end in Noah Fant. You gotta compete, I think. So that's the move Seattle makes. I don't think they're settled with Drew Lock, if you think of me here. Next, we have the New York Jets on the clock here. This is a hard choice for me because I have Cross and Trayvon Walker being 2 top 10 picks here, and one of them is one's going to get tremendous value that's falling out. Again, I'm not as high as Walker, a lot of people. I probably would put Charles Cross over him, but is it the Jets' biggest need, offensive tackle, right? Is it their biggest need? I really don't know. I think edge rush could be a little bit bigger of a need if you ask me. And I think a guy like Trayvon Walker here continuing to fall, who could get tremendous value for you at 10, I think that's just too much to pass up there for the New York Jets. So they're going to grab Trayvon Walker here from Georgia. You pair Trayvon Walker with Ahmad Gardner, you're walking out of the top 10 with those 2 players, maybe arguably the best players at each of their positions. I think that's a good win there for the Jets. Next, we have the Washington Commanders on the clock here, who, again, have a lot of interesting things they need to think about here. I think they would have loved to have Kyle Hamilton here. Not going to work out for them. Sauce Gardner would have loved to have him, but that's not going to pan out for them either. I think they're looking at 2 players here. I think they're looking at Jermaine Johnson, who could, excuse me, not Jermaine Johnson, sorry. They're looking at Derek Stingley, who had his pro day and looked amazing, right? Is he going to be that 2019 Derek Stingley, or is there still a project in the works with him here? Can the Commanders take a gamble on a guy like Derek Stingley, or can they focus on that position in the second round? Drake London and Jameson Williams are here, two really good wide receivers that could complement Terry McLaurin really well. You think about Terry McLaurin, the speedster, guy on the outside, can do a jack of all trades. Jameson Williams is kind of that. But a guy who's not like that is Drake London, who is a big body receiver, great red zone threat, physical threat, and could complement a guy like Terry McLaurin really well. I've mocked this for a while now, and I think I'm going to stick with it. Drake London going to the Commanders. I think that's a really nice 1-2 punch there for Carson Wentz to work with. Complementary players do something different. So I like that move there for them. I think it's a good fit. Next, we have the Minnesota Vikings on the clock here, who again are their biggest needs are here, right? You look at Jordan Davis. They need help stopping that run, and Jordan Davis could come in and do that for them here. You look at the corner position, and you look at Pat Peterson. He's very old and isn't the same Pat Peterson as he was. So if you bring in a guy like Derek Stingley, they're going to learn a lot from a guy like Patrick Peterson. That would be a great asset and a good – you would want to do that. I think that makes a lot of sense. And plus, you think of the Vikings, right? New GM, new head coach. You think of the Vikings in general, good, solid team, right? Can they take gambles on guys like Derek Stingley, right, who is – a known commodity, sure, but is he going to be that same 2019 Derek Stingley that we all know and love him to be? Could have been a top 5 pick back in 2019. I think they do. Before I had them taking Jordan Davis here, but the things that worry me a little bit about Jordan Davis, is he going to be able to play 4 downs? You know what I mean? Is he going to be a guy you're going to have to rotate in and out constantly? And I say that just because of the weight issue, right? We know Jordan Davis is a great impact player at run stopping, right? But can he be able to play for multiple times on end, I guess, is a question. You look at Derek Stingley, he can maybe do that here. And again, I think bringing back Pat Peterson, you kind of do that for a reason, right? Derek Stingley, after the pro day, I think has proved to himself that, all right, you got your eyes on me now. I'm worth a top 15 pick. I'm worth maybe even a top 10 pick, right? But I think the Vikings get good value here if this pans out the way that we all hope it does. So I think that's a good pick there for the Vikings. Next, we have the Texans back on the clock. As I said, they took Evan Neal in the first round, it was the 3rd overall pick here. And I think the board is shaping up pretty well for them here. I think, again, they can go in any direction, like I said. I don't think Charles Cross makes sense, right? You already have Tunsil. That doesn't make sense. But I'm looking at 2 guys here in Jermaine Johnson and Jameson Williams, 2 guys that could come in and really do some special things there for them. Do they really want to go Alabama, and take Jameson Williams? I mean, they could, right? There's nothing against that. But I think edge rush, too, is a big need for them. And I think the last first-round worthy edge rusher is on the board here in Jermaine Johnson. They really haven't had a good edge rush, the Houston Texans, since J.J. Watt was there in his prime. So you bring Jermaine Johnson in, and he's going to make an impact for your team. I love that pick there for the Texans. You're walking out with Evan Neal and Jermaine Johnson in the first round. I think that's a good start to your rebuild there, Nick Caserio. Next, we have the Baltimore Ravens on the clock here, who would have loved those 2 players that just went. Stingley and Jermaine Johnson would have been instant impact players. It's not going to work out for them, unfortunately. But they're not going to be too mad with their compensation prize in Jordan Davis, who, let's face it, the Ravens need to stop the run. They need interior defensive line presence. And I think with this team having a pretty star-studded defense already in itself, you can get a guy like Jordan Davis who can be a rotational player, who can come in there and help that run defense, right? I think it just makes too much sense. I love that fit there for the Ravens taking a Jordan Davis. And plus, I think Davis is worth a top 15 pick in general, right? Yes, the weight issue is a thing, but again, he's an impact player, had an amazing combine, right? Outstanding numbers. Just makes too much sense here. Next, we have the Philadelphia Eagles on the clock here. And the Eagles have positioned themselves very interesting here, right? Very, very interesting how they positioned themselves here. They jumped ahead of the Saints and twice, right? They now have 15 and 18, right? And the Saints have maneuvered themselves in between them. They jumped ahead of the Chargers. You think about that too. but the Eagles put themselves in front of them for a reason, a couple of reasons too, right? Because I think these three teams right here, 15 through 19, they kind of have similar needs, I guess you could say, when it comes to their team. Looking at the Philadelphia Eagles here, they need a lot of help, right? I mean, you think of Howie Roseman and what he wants to do for this team. I think the way he positioned himself here in front of the Saints is an interesting way to go about it, because I think what he's going to do here, he's going to take an upside pick with this first overall selection. I think he's going to take Jameson Williams from Alabama. I think Williams, yes, the injury is a thing, but he's just too good to fall out of the top 20. Pains me as a Patriot, but Jameson Williams, electric, great run after the catch, tremendous speed. He's going to come in there, pair him alongside Devontae Smith. You got your two Bama receivers for the future, and you got Jalen Mills, who is a great player too. And even if he is in the future or not, that's a really solid offense to work around and build around. So Jameson Williams will go to the first pick there for the Philadelphia Eagles. Next, we have the Saints, who are on the clock here. Again, they got 2 first-round picks a part of this deal, and they need quarterback. Let's not get it twisted. They definitely need a quarterback. Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis are off the board, however, so that might be a position they're going to have to address later on in the draft here. Or could they? But with the 16th pick here, I think they jumped ahead of the Chargers for a reason. They need offensive tackle help along with the Chargers. And luckily, they have 2 really good players here. And I think they're going to get a tremendous value pick here at 16 for the Saints. They're going to get Charles Cross from Mississippi State, who's a great pass blocker. That's definitely what he's known for. I love that pick for the Saints, that you get your future left or right tackle for the future there with the Saints. So love that pick for them. Like I said, Cross can go in the top 10, and I wouldn't be mad at it. Next, we have the Chargers on the clock here. And again, they would have loved to have a guy like Charles Cross fall to them. That's not how it worked out. And now they have a couple guys to choose from here. I think looking at the defensive line, because, yes, their run defense is terrible. We all know this. You saw teams just running against them last year, both in the regular season. So with that, I think they really did a good job addressing that in free agency with Sebastian Joseph Day, just to name one. But the question is, do you want to keep adding to that, right? Devontae Wyatt is sitting here, kind of the unknown name when it comes to both Georgia players and the combine. He had a great combine, right? Really outstanding numbers and everything. He would come in, be a great rotational player there, and just continue to help that run defense. That makes a lot of sense. You think of Trevor Penning here from Northern Iowa. That makes a lot of sense. Pair him alongside Rashawn Slater on one side, Penning on the other side. There's your 2 tackles for the future. I love that. Is Penning worth the pick here at 17? Because he really is the only, I guess you could say, true good tackle left on the board here in the first round. I think with all the moves they made on the defense, in particular with the Chargers, they're going to want to focus on the offensive side a little bit here. So Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa, I guess, is their compensation prize for not getting Charles Cross. But I think it just makes a lot of sense. Their 2 offensive tackles go back-to-back. Penning will come in right away, strong, aggressive player. Has to watch out for his attitude, I guess. But I think that's something they can work with for sure. Next, we have the Philadelphia Eagles back on the clock here, who recently just took Jameson Williams. So they got their wide receiver for that offense. I think now they're going to shuffle over to that defensive side of the ball here. No really true edge rushers available here. I mean, Karlaftis is a great player, and I think that would be an interesting pick here for them here. I really haven't talked too much about George Karlaftis, and maybe a lot of people have forgotten about him for a reason. I think it's just, what position do they need more? Do they need corner or do they need edge rush? I think when you think of the Eagles, they really need more help on the outside side of the ball here. Over that edge rush, you got guys up front that could really make an impact for them. So I think they shift over to the cornerback position. And I think the next best corner on the board, yes, I know Booth is ranked higher here, but I think Trent McDuffie would be a great value pick here for them. Really doesn't have a lot of size. We know that, but starting quarterback mentality, inside or outside. And I think with that versatility of being able to play both inside and outside, I think the Eagles are going to value that a little bit more than Andrew Booth, who's really more of an outside guy just alone. So McDuffie there to the Eagles. I like that selection there for them. Next, we have the New Orleans Saints back on the clock here. As we know, they took Charles Cross with their first pick. They need a receiver to pair alongside Michael Thomas there. Really nothing else to work with, and who knows what Michael Thomas is going to look like when he comes back from that big injury he suffered. But Jameis Winston's going to need guys to throw to. Is Winston going to be the quarterback? I don't know. He is right now so far in this mock draft here. But you look at the receivers here on the board. You look at Jahan Dotson, you look at Chris Olave, and you look at Treylon Burks. Those are the three guys here that are worthy of first-round picks, if you ask me. Dotson, more of that speedy slot receiver, would be a good complementary piece to Michael Thomas. But when you think of Michael Thomas, they like to move him around a little bit, right? So they love that versatility, right? Who's a guy on this board that's very versatile? That's Chris Olave from Ohio State, right? Very good route runner, probably the best route runner in the class. Pair him with Michael Thomas. You can shift them around, put them in different spots, and defensive coordinators will be up all night trying to figure out how to play against those two, because Cross and Olave, that's great. 2 picks there for the Saints. I love that for them. Great picks. Great picks there. Next, we have this Pittsburgh Steelers on the clock here. And the Pittsburgh Steelers here are kind of – they're in a wonky spot, if you ask me. Kind of a wonky spot, because they would have loved Kenny Pickett. They would have loved Malik Willis, and they're definitely going to have to move up a little bit for them. I can definitely see the Steelers trying to be one of those teams to move up and get their quarterback of the future. But again, we're sticking and picking here. I think the Saints are kind of just in a position here where they take best available player for them. And I think they want to continue building on this defense that they already have, right? You think of J.J. Watt, you think of that great line that they have, and Devontae Wyatt could really be an interesting guy there to put in here into that defense. Just rotate him in, and he'll be really he fits the character of a Pittsburgh Steeler. Zion Johnson too could be another guy, first guard to come off the board potentially here, as it is definitely a need. But I'm going to give the Steelers Wyatt. I think it might be their best player on the board. Just come in and keep building on that defense that you already have strong and pat. Again, I think the Steelers are going to move up when it's all said and done. But in this mock, we have to stick and pick. New England Patriots are on the clock here. This is my team. This is my city. I love this team, man. And they really, really have a lot of needs to fill. And I think Draft Network did a pretty good job of labeling it here. I wouldn't put safety as high as they do. I would definitely say corner is definitely a need. Linebacker, wide receiver are definitely needs. But I would not put safety over wide receiver. And guard. We need a starting guard as well. And there's some options here for us, right? Andrew Booth from Clemson, right? We lost J.C. Jackson in free agency. Andrew Booth could come right in right away, play on the outside, and be a potential shutdown corner for us. He's 6 feet. I love the potential of Andrew Booth. You look at Zion Johnson, who could come in and be the starting guard for us right away, maybe the best guard in the draft. I love that value as well. And then Devin Lloyd is another guy we would probably look at too. High motor linebacker who could come in and really just be a speedy guy on the defense we've been looking for a while. The reason I'm going to take Andrew Booth here for us is, one, I think it's our biggest need. We need a corner. We need a lockdown, shutdown corner. And getting Booth here would be tremendous value, I think, too, for us. And then we can focus on guard. We can focus on receiver. And we can focus on linebacker later on, because those positions have a little bit more depth, I would say, in the later rounds. Green Bay Packers are on the clock here. They have 2 picks in the first round as well. You traded Devontae Adams. Who are you throwing the ball to, Aaron Rodgers? You cannot be happy over there. If I was him, I would not be happy. I definitely would not be happy here. So I think with this first pick, it's hard. It's really, really hard. This is really, really hard here, because I see George Karlaftis here, and I think that would be a great get for them there. But you already have Zadarius Smith, who had a great year. Oh, man, that's tough. They got to go receiver, right? It's their biggest need. And I think the best receiver on the board is Treylon Burks. He's your big outside receiver that you just lost in Devontae Adams. So why not get it back with Treylon Burks? That just makes too much sense here. Maybe Karlaftis will fall, but I doubt it. So Packers need to get a receiver there to help out that receiver core for sure. Next, we have the Arizona Cardinals on the clock, who would have loved to have a guy like Treylon Burks. Didn't work out that way, but I think they're going to get a really solid pick here in Karlaftis is not going to fall any longer, guys. He's going to fall here to the Cardinals. J.J. Watt is getting older. You just lost Chandler Jones, so get some youngness in that defensive line. Karlaftis makes way too much sense there for the Cardinals. Next, we have the Dallas Cowboys, who would have loved to have a guy like George Karlaftis fall to them, but it is what it is here. I think they would have also loved to have a guy like they would have loved to have a guy like Treylon Burks as well. Pair him along with CeeDee Lamb now that Amari Cooper is out of there. But I think receiver here is a little rich. Maybe Jahan Dotson is something to think about, but at the same time, it's not really a good I can't really see him fitting into the Cowboys since you already kind of have your slot receiver position already figured out here. I'm going to give the Cowboys here maybe a little bit of a reach. Is guard a big need for them? Yeah, you could take Zion Johnson, but I'm looking at Daxton Hill here. Could maybe fall as early as 24. They need safety. It's their biggest, not their biggest need, but it is one of their biggest needs on defense. Or do you take a guy like Zion? I'm going to give them Daxton Hill. I think they're going to like the upside in this kid, and I think he could fall into the first round there. So I think that's a solid pick there for the Dallas Cowboys. Next, we have the Buffalo Bills on the clock here, and I've been drafting this for this team for a long time. They need a corner. I could definitely see Kyer Elam being a potential option here for them now that Tre'Davious White is coming off of that big injury. What's he going to look like? Plus, you really haven't had a number 2 corner that's been solid and be able to hold that down. So Elam could come in and be that, right? But I'm also looking at the Bills, right? And what do they do best? Offense, right? You just lost Emmanuel Sanders. Well, he's not the same, I should say. And Cole Beasley is no longer there. So you bring in a slot receiver like Jahan Dotson. That would be kind of crazy to think about here. That would be insane now that I think about it. But you know what? I think I'm going to value the corner position a little bit more here for the Bills. I'm going to give them Kyer Elam. I'm going to do something a little bit different there. Pair him alongside Tre'Davious White. I think that would be a good get there for the Buffalo Bills. Next, we have the Tennessee Titans on the clock here. And this is an interesting spot here, too. Again, I'm looking at 2 guys here for them. I'm looking at Devin Lloyd, and I'm looking at Jahan Dotson for the Titans. Linebacker is a huge need for the Titans. You think Mike Vrabel and what he values, him being a former linebacker, I think he can really scout what a good linebacker could look like, and Devin Lloyd certainly fits that bill. Maybe he even likes Nakobe Dean more as well. But then you think of Jahan Dotson, right? You got A.J. Brown. You picked up Robert Woods, which was a good get, but you put Jahan Dotson in the slot. Tennessee looking pretty scary, if you ask me. I like that pick. I like that pick there for the Titans there. Next, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the clock here. You think of their offensive line. You had one that just retired, right? Tampa doesn't really need to do too much, right? But one thing they definitely need to do is protect Tom Brady, right? Very old quarterback, and he doesn't take injuries as takes him a little bit longer to recover than maybe some younger guys here. So I think you take the best guard on the board here, Zion Johnson. Come right in, plug and play. That's a good value pick there for them. Could potentially be go higher, right? Next, we have the Green Bay Packers back on the clock here. And I think with Jahan Dotson there off the board, the lack, or I should say the possibility of them going double receiver goes a little bit lower if you ask me. So I think that the Packers here just take their next biggest need. Like I said, they wanted Karlaftis there, and it's not going to happen. But I think a guy who could slip into the first round late, and I value him way higher than a lot of people do. I'm going to take Boye Mafe from Minnesota there. Tenacious, physical guy. Come in there and help out that defensive front there for the Packers. Next, we have the Kansas City Chiefs on the clock here, who are pretty upset right now that they lost a chance on Kyer Elam and they lost a chance on Jahan Dotson. Those 2 guys they would have loved to get. Again, I think the Chiefs are a team they're going to try to, move up and get one of those guys, if you ask me. So with how the board is shaping up right here for them, this is kind of a weird spot for them to be in here, but they haven't re-signed Tyrann Mathieu. And Lewis Cine is out there. That could be a good plug and play kind of guy right there. David Ojabo, maybe they're a team that can take a gamble on a guy like David Ojabo, who obviously got hurt and fell a little bit and probably won't be able to play right away. But can the Chiefs take a gamble on a guy like him. The Chiefs are already really good. I think they can. I'm going to give them David Ojabo. That could end up being a really good pick for them to be able to get him at 30 when he was months ago a top 15 prospect. And I think to get a guy that can come in and play right away, I'm going to give them Lewis Cine from Georgia. Cine falls into the first round. Again, you have no Tyrann Mathieu right now, so plug and play. He's your starting safety right there for the future. Next, we have the Cincinnati Bengals on the clock. And yes, they updated the offensive line a whole lot in free agency, but they're not done. Okay. They need to keep working on this offensive line. They need to keep getting more value there and everything else. So Tyler Linderbaum is heading to the Cincinnati Bengals, right? The best center in the draft, maybe even the best interior offensive lineman in the draft, period. Comes in, and he can play center for you right away. Move Ted Karras over to a guard spot. He can definitely play guard. So I like that pick there for the Bengals. Again, you made it to the Super Bowl last year without really protecting your quarterback. Protect your quarterback, and maybe you can win the whole damn thing, right? Next, we have the Detroit Lions on the clock here. And again, I think Cine coming off the board makes this pick a whole lot easier, right? Like I said, they need a safety, and one just fell. So I think maybe they can wait to that 34th pick to get one if the Jaguars don't take him. But I think with a quarterback here, right, the Lions, I don't think they trust Jared Goff. I don't think they think he's their future. So if you draft one here in the first round, you still have that fifth-year option available to you, right, with a guy. So I think it just makes a whole lot of sense. Plus, this is the Matthew Stafford pick right here. So why not just take a quarterback with that pick? You know what I mean? Desmond Ridder from Cincinnati is heading over to the Detroit Lions to learn behind Jared Goff for a year and then come on in and be that guy. Desmond Ridder's my QB5. He's not in the top 3, but still I think he has a lot of upside, maybe even behind a guy like Malik Willis. So not a bad pick there by the Lions. Now we're going to start the second round here. Starting the second round here for the Jaguars. In the first round, obviously, you take Aiden Hutchinson. So a lot of people are thinking, maybe they'll go offense here with this pick. But, no, I think they should continue building this team here. And I think the Lions aren't going to be happy with this pick. But I think they need to work on that safety position a little bit, continue building in the secondary. Perry and Winfrey could be a good get here as well. But I think just because you went up front with Aiden Hutchinson, get a guy like Jaquan Brisker to come in there, and he could be your back-end safety and really help out with that secondary for sure out there in Jacksonville. Next, we have the Lions back on the clock here, who again have taken, we're just going to go back and remind you, Kayvon Thibodeau and Desmond Ridder with your picks here. So with a safety coming off the board there, I think the next obvious position here is linebacker, and a lot of people might be shocked that Devin Lloyd has fallen here to the second round, but you're getting a tremendous value, right? I think he's the best linebacker in the draft, and you're getting tremendous value there if you're the Detroit Lions. So I love those picks that they're making right there. Next, we have the Jets on the clock here. Again, safety is a big need for them, but that's not going to work out for them here. It's not going to, there's really no one really here for them right here at this value. So the next kind of positions I'm looking at here are wide receiver and then the defensive line, I would say. Maybe linebacker too. Not a bad direction to go in. So Sky Moore, great player. Just kind of really don't see him fitting the Jets as you already have Elijah Moore as your slot receiver. So that's kind of out of the picture for me. So next I'm going to look at the defensive line. You can definitely continue to grow on it. You have Quinnen Williams and guys like that. But I think you can keep building on this defense if you wanted to. I'm going to give the Jets Nakobe Dean. And I think I like that for them because they went all offense last year, first 4 picks. Now they're going to go all defense. That's crazy to think about, right? Maybe even you're getting the best linebacker there. The 2 linebackers go back-to-back. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy now that I'm thinking about it here. Next, we have the Giants back on the clock here. I think if Nakobe Dean was right there for them, they would have taken him. But just going back and reminding you what they took here, I'm reminding myself too. Kyle Hamilton and Akeem Ekwounwu. All right. Kyle Hamilton and Akeem Ekwounwu. So this pick here, again, we're all about helping Daniel Jones, right? So you could grab a Kenyon Green here, who could come in, right, and really help as well. But you drafted Will Hernandez, so maybe that's not as big of a need here. I'm going to give you Sky Moore. Yeah, give Daniel Jones a weapon to work with there, a nice young slot receiver. I like that a lot there for the Giants. I think that was a solid pick. And Sky Moore could sneak into that first round. He could. He definitely could. Don't get it twisted. Next, we have the Houston Texans on the clock here, who took Evan Neal and Jermaine Johnson. Having a great draft so far, if you ask me. I love those picks for them. Let's give them. Let's see here. Let's see. Kenyon Green. Yeah, he could definitely do that. Potentially Christian Harris, maybe. Nah, we're gonna go Kyler Gordon. We're gonna give you guys a corner here. Work on the outside there. So you're picking. You're pretty much just picking all the key spots there for the Texans to start building around here. And next, the Jets are back on the clock here. They already drafted their edge rusher. They could use a wide receiver. They really could use a wide receiver, right? With an upside pick here. That would be kind of crazy. But Corey Davis is already tall in itself. Are they going to go 4 defensive players, or are they going to sneak in an offensive player here? I feel like they're going to sneak in an offensive player here. Christian Watson heads over to the Jets. Maybe the most upside wide receiver in the second round there. Ooh, big body receiver there for Zach Wilson to work with. Not bad. I think the Bears would have loved to have him there, but it doesn't work out that way. So I think looking at the Bears here, you think of what they need. This is their first pick. They need to protect Justin Fields a whole lot better. Yes, he has the ability to scramble and run around, but he can't be doing that for his whole career. Give him some protection up front. I say the best offensive lineman here is Kenyon Green, who I think is a first-round value. So I think that's a steal right there for the Bears, and that would be screaming and running to the board here with that pick. And next we have the Seattle Seahawks, who took Malik Willis with their first pick, and now this is where they can really start building their team, right, for this year. So looking at the players on the board here, I think edge rush is definitely a need, and I think there's an edge rusher of great value here for them in Arnold Epiketti. Mean player, man. Really, really mean, as you can see. He's so fast, and probably one of the fastest edge rushers in the draft. Coming off the edge is insane. So bring that to this team, and that's pretty insane. Now looking at what's available, I just don't think there's an offensive tackle here to take. Raymond, I think it's a little early, but again, Seattle's just kind of in a mood where they can reach and maybe do that. So I'm gonna reach a little bit probably and take Bernard Raymond, who I think is the next best offensive tackle. You got to protect whoever the quarterback is going to be back there. Is it Drew Lock or Malik Willis? Got to help them out a little bit. So there's that. And the Colts are not too happy with those 2 picks. Those are their 2 biggest needs right there. But I think because of that, they're probably going to go with a corner, I would say. And, I see Tariq Woolen here, who has the potential to be a really strong outside corner. I would say the same. Yeah, development. He's really good in zone, good zone receive corner. So we're gonna give them Tariq Woolen here. And next we have the Falcons on the clock. I got to remind myself who they took. Oh, that's right, Garrett Wilson. They took Garrett Wilson here. I just saw something I want to think about now. Do the Falcons want to take their potential franchise quarterback here? Or do they want to get a guy to come in and help? I feel like their linebacker core is pretty solid. Really no edge rushers here for them. I'm gonna take my favorite quarterback in the draft, maybe, that I think is getting overlooked. I'm gonna give them Sam Howell from North Carolina. Everyone, he didn't play very well last year because all of his players went into the NFL. So cut him some slack there, but he still showed upside and promise. So I love that value there for the Falcons. I think that's a good pick there for them. Cleveland, their first pick on the clock here. I think they would love to get some edge rush help for Miles Garrett, excuse me. I also think wide receiver is definitely a need for them here. But Yeah, George Pickens is probably the best one on the board, but that's kind of like a Amari Cooper type receiver as well. So I'm looking at two guys here for them, Perry and Winfrey or Quay Walker. I think upfront help is big for them, and I think this is a good value pick here for the Browns. So we'll give them Perry and Winfrey from Oklahoma. He's not going too far from home there. Get yourself a Boomer Sooner when you're going to get rid of one, and Baker. Yikes. Next, we have the I know my team. Sorry, the Baltimore Ravens, who took Jordan Davis with their first pick. Great pick. Great pick. Edge rusher is kind of Cam Thomas, a little early for me. Corner has been who's that? McCreary. It's a little early for me here for McCreary. So I'm going to give them an offensive lineman. I'm going to give them Tyler Smith from Tulsa. You know, you got to protect Lamar Jackson, got to help him out. So we'll give you guys Tyler Smith there, who I think has some versatility, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he's mostly a starting guard. Yeah, he started at left tackle. Yeah, I thought he had a little bit of versatility. So I think the Ravens will value that versatility here. Next, we have the Minnesota Vikings on the clock here. And again, with their first pick, they grabbed the upside player in Derek Stingley. So I think they just continue to build on the secondary because it's their biggest need, right? You know, Jalen Pitree's here, very underrated safety in this draft. Maybe one of my favorite players in this draft. But then you have DeMarvin Leal, who's also a really good player, former five-star player. So maybe you're taking a little bit of a gamble there. But I think because you already took that gamble with a guy like Derek Stingley, you got to maybe take the more sure thing, and that's Jalen Pitree. And plus, it's your biggest need. So I think they would have loved either player. But since you took that upside with Stingley, take Jalen Pitree here. They're just building on that secondary out there in Minnesota. Next, we have the Commanders on the clock. And I think they would have loved Pitree. I think they have similar value needs there. But I think guard is a big, important need there for the Commanders. I think they're two older gentlemen, so gotta help them out a little bit here. So why don't you give you guys Sean Ryan from UCLA? I forgot to say who else they drafted. Drake London. So you're just really continuing to build this offense as their defense is already pretty good. So again, you're getting a guard for the future in Sean Ryan. I like that pick there for the Commanders. Next, we have the Bears on the clock. And now I think they can definitely – they could take Daniel Falele. They could, right? Makes a lot of sense. Cam Thomas, I think it's a little too early for him. I'm going to do it. I'm going to give you guys Daniel Falele. Chicago has one of the worst offensive lines in the league. So to be able to get Kenyon Green and Daniel Falele there, those are two really good picks there. I think Justin Fields would be pretty happy with that. Looking at the Saints, they took Chris Olave and Charles Cross. I think they're having a great draft so far, if you ask me. And I think this is where they're going to get their franchise quarterback. You got to get a guy to compete with Jameis Winston. And Matt Corral is going to come off the board here for the Saints. I think the Saints would love Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis, but I think Matt Corral is a pretty solid player. Definitely needs a redshirt year. So if that's what you're going to do with Winston, I think it makes a lot of sense. Next, we have the Kansas City Chiefs on the clock here. And you get Juju Smith-Schuster. You get Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Pretty much these big body receivers. So to get a guy like George Pickens is kind of slows you down a little bit, if you ask me, right? So I think you just take your next best position of need, and that's corner. So I'm going to give you guys Roger McCreary, who I'm not as high on, but he definitely can play both inside and out, and he definitely kind of has that versatility. I could see him being a Patriot, but I kind of like that pick there for you guys. Next, the Eagles are back on the clock. Let's go back and see who they took. They grabbed Trent McDuffie and Jameson Williams. So you got your corner, you got your receiver, and now you're going to get your linebacker because, you know, the Eagles love drafting their linebackers in the second round, right? Quay Walker's still here, who has a lot of upside. 4-star recruit coming out of high school. He's going to be that pass rusher for you guys. He's consistent, very physical, and I think he's a great fit there in Philly. Great fit. So Quay Walker heads over to the Phillies. Next, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, who in the first round, I think, added to their defensive front. Yes, and took Devontae Wyatt from Georgia. Ooh, interesting. I'm looking just to see who's on the board real quick here. No quarterback really for them here, unfortunately. Jamari Sawyer would be interesting. You know what? I'm gonna give Mitchell Trubisky, whoever the quarterback's gonna be, a weapon here. You did lose Juju Smith-Schuster, a big outside receiver. You have Chase Claypool. You have Deontay Harris. Yeah, we'll give you guys George Pickens from Georgia. Back-to-back Georgia players go off the board. There's your new, outside receiver there for whoever the quarterback is going to be. Oh, I think the Packers would have loved that pick there. The Packers got Boye Mafe and Treylon Burks. And I think they need to continue building on this offensive line. Yeah, Christian Harris is there, would be a good get. But DeMarvin Leal would also be an interesting choice as well. Yeah, we're going to – ooh. I think, you know what? Actually, I think because you missed out on George Pickens, give Aaron Rodgers another target. Trey McBride from Colorado State comes in. He's your new starting Robert Tonyan as well. So you got two guys in there. Yeah, big body, big catch radius there for him. I think he's definitely the number one tight end right there. Next, we have the New England Patriots on the clock here. I think this pick is easy for us, right? We need to get some more receivers. We have no receivers signed till after this season. You know what I mean? No, all of the receivers are going to be not under contract, is what I'm saying. So you need to get Mac Jones, a guy that he can build for the future. And why not just get his former teammate? Just what all the teams are doing. John Mechie from Alabama comes in, and he's that starting not the starter, but even if he's injured for a little bit, he doesn't have to be the guy right away. You know what I mean? But definitely get him in there. He'll help out the receiver room. And we always draft an Alabama receiver every year, or player every year. So makes way too much sense for it not to happen. Next, we have the Arizona Cardinals on the clock. I think they don't need running back. They got James Conner. You did lose Chase Edmonds. I will say that. But they did end up getting George Karlaftis with their first pick right there. Breece Hall is here. That would be interesting. Just looking to see what else is available here. I mean, David Bell would be pretty much your AJ Green replacement. Big body receiver, upside. Kyler Murray can make it work. I'm going to give you guys David Bell. I just feel like they're going to do something like that. Wow, look at that. 4 pass catchers off the board, back to back to back to back. Next, we have the Dallas Cowboys on the clock, who took Daxton Hill with their first pick here. Okay, I think this is now in the range of Cam Thomas in the mid-50s. I think that makes a whole lot of sense. Cam Thomas is going to go here. They're going to get their edge rusher, mostly played on the defensive side of the ball. Good luck blocking him one-on-one, because he's virtually impossible to cover one-on-one. So I think the Cowboys would be happy with that pick here. Next, we have the Buffalo Bills on the clock. They need to keep building on this offense, right? It's what they're doing well. But what's one thing this offense can't do well, and that is run the football. Devin Singletary couldn't do it. Zach Moss couldn't do it. But Breece Hall from Iowa State could do that for them, right? Easily the best running back in the class. Most accomplished for sure in his college career. Yeah. Running back by committee. I don't agree with that. I think he could be a featured back. And I think in Buffalo, he's going to have to. So I think that's a great get there for Buffalo. So they're walking out right now with Kyer Elam and Breece Hall, two key positions there for the Bills. The Atlanta Falcons are back on the clock here. They took Garrett Wilson, and they just took their quarterback of the future, right? Yeah, Sam Howell. Got it. So really they can just take best available player, I think, here. Linebacker, definitely a need. There's some decent pass rushers here. Logan Hall is freakishly athletic. Yeah, he's very tall and lengthy. Yeah. Explosive. Yeah, that's right. I'm thinking I think Christian Harris is just solid, man. But you already have pretty good linebackers. Nah, I think I'm going to give you guys the edge rusher. I'm going to give you guys Logan Hall. I'm going to give you guys Logan Hall from Houston. I think that's just a good pick. Good. You need edge rush help. Green Bay Packers back on the clock here. I think this one is easy. You were still able to get Trey McBride, and your guy is still here. So DeMarvin Leal from Texas A&M comes right in and helps that defensive front. Solid rotation up front. Next, we have the Buccaneers on the clock. And with Gronkowski being unsure about what he's going to do, I could definitely maybe see them taking a tight end here. However, I think it's a little bit early. They did bring back LeGarrette Blount. I do remember seeing that. But you don't have a Ndamukong Suh replacement right now. And Travis Jones is just hanging out here, right? Yeah, he's just one technique nose tackle, straight up front with Vita Vea, just mauling people up front. I kind of like that pick there for the Buccaneers. First pick here for the San Francisco 49ers, who could go in a bunch of different directions with this pick, I'd say. It's not clear-cut that they're going to take guard here, though I do think it is a need for them, and I think Sawyer is a pretty decent choice to go with. He could start right away, I would say, for sure. Good vertical movement, I would say, as well. Probably stronger in the run game than most of the guards in the draft. So we'll give you guys Jamari Sawyer, best available player there for you guys in terms of needs. Kansas City is back on the clock here. Is there a receiver here that they would like? Yeah, I think there is. I think they're going to maybe take their biggest position of need, and that's wide receiver. You lose your fast playmaker in Tyreek Hill. Calvin Austin, 5'8", young, super fast, 2 or 3 in a receiver, right? You have Travis Kelce and you have Juju Smith-Schuster. You have Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He doesn't need to be the number one. So I think that just makes a whole lot of sense for the Chiefs to take Calvin Austin there. It's just kind of like a match made in heaven. Next, we have the Bengals, who took Tyler Linderbaum with their first pick here. I really don't see a corner here for them to take, which is unfortunate because they really do need a corner. You did lose C.J. Uzomah to the Jets, so maybe adding a guy like Isaiah Likely makes a lot of sense here too. He's senior tight end, right? Yeah, he's your Y flex or H-back kind of tight end as well. He's a good route runner, don't get me wrong. Pretty versatile. He can do a little bit of both. He's kind of like just that tight end that can do a little bit of everything for you, jack of all trades. And I think Uzomah was kind of like that as well. So I kind of like that there for the Bengals. Next, we have the Denver Broncos on the clock. I think I accidentally did a full round mock draft, and I meant just to do a 2-rounder. This is going to be the last pick right here. So the Denver Broncos are on the clock here. And obviously, they're going to look for guys that are going to come in and help Russell Wilson, right? I think that just makes the most sense. Josh Pascal is here. He's a good edge rusher. And I think it is their biggest need since Von Miller had left. So we'll give them Pascal. I think that's a good pick there. Yeah, and I accidentally did do that. That is my fault. That should have ended there, and then we would have been able to recap all of those choices here. So let me stop sharing. I apologize about that. That's my fault, guys. But that is going to do it for my 2-round mock draft. I hope you liked it. I think I definitely made a lot of different choices than I would have last time. So, but this was fun, though. This was a good time. I enjoyed doing these. They're a lot of fun. Again, I'm probably going to do one more before the draft rolls around. So look forward to that. I also do plan on, in between this one and that final one, doing a mock draft with my buddy of mine from the Painted Lines. So hopefully that can happen with me and Dibes. You'll see it when you see it. But thank you guys for watching. I hope you liked it. Hit that like button and comment down below on some of the picks I made and if you would agree or disagree with some of them. But hope you guys have a good rest of your week, and we'll talk later. See you later, guys.